Morning friends, it's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. I hope you are doing well. Today I'm back out at the farm to try to get more clearing of these beds done so we can flip them from summer to spring. It is Saturday. It's another hot day, so I'm out here early. I'm hoping to get a couple hours work in before it just gets too unbearable to be out here. It's going to be a while before we get any cool weather, so looking at the next couple weeks of working in the heat. But I want to continue the work on the beds and getting the current summer crop out so that we can flip the beds. Now, I did make a pretty major decision in the middle of the night a couple nights ago. I am going to, and I've already got it, I'm going to line these beds with hardware cloth for the gophers. This is something that I thought about last year, but, switching from spring to summer crops, but I didn't do it then. I was like, it'll be better. I've got a handle on the gophers, which I kind of had at that point, but the amount of plants that I lost in the spring, I lost almost 75% of my crop, and that was a huge financial loss. So the cost of purchasing the amount of hardware cloth that I need, this is 1/4 inch hardware cloth, nothing can squeeze into it, no, not even mice, was so much less than the amount that I lost financially from all of that crop loss last year. So the other thing is peace of mind. That means that when we go do our kind of 3-day weekend trips over the winter, up to the mountains or whatever, I don't have to sit and chew my fingernails the whole time, worried about how many plants the gophers are taking. So the plan is pretty easy. I mean, the plan's easy. The work is not going to be easy, and I am going to need help. So Mike and Aiden will be out helping me at some point, but now is the time to do it because the beds are empty. So since I need to reshape these beds anyway, what I'm going to do is pull, the usual thing, continue to pull everything off the bed so that all we have is soil. Then I'm going to use I have a small silage tarp. I'm going to drag that over, just like I'm going to do in the dahlia bed. I'm going to scoop out all of the soil that's in there as deeply as I can and put that on the tarp. Then I'm going to create a hardware cloth basket, basically, into that bed. And I have so much extra lumber lying around that I'm going to use that on the sides just to kind of create a frame. It won't be above ground. So I will still be dealing with overland critters like rats and mice, but they have been much less of an issue than the gophers have. The gophers are the ones that go underground and they pull entire plants underground. I actually seen that happen out here. It's crazy. So that's going to be the plan. And so I've got one roll of hardware cloth with me today, but I did realize as I was pulling up that I forgot to bring all the tools that I need to lay that out. That's okay. There's still beds to clear. So that will be what we work on maybe tomorrow a little bit, but definitely this coming week. And it is going to be a lot of hard work. Now the soil itself should be nice and soft because it's been irrigated all year with drip irrigation. And so the digging shouldn't be hard. It's just going to be a lot of work because we have 10 beds that are 30 inches wide, 40 feet long. That's a lot of soil to move. So, and I want to get it down deep enough so that it's not, so that the plants, when they go in, have a good, this 6 to 8 inches of soil to grow into. And they can grow through the hardware cloth. That's not a problem. But, I just don't want it to be super shallow. So what we'll do is once the hardware cloth goes in, then I have all this cardboard. I'm going to lay down a layer of cardboard, then put the soil back on top. And then when the compost comes, we'll put 2 inches of compost on top of that and then remake those beds. And so that will do two things. One, the gophers won't be able to get in. Two, and the hardware cloth will go up the sides as well as the wooden sides as well. So they will be mostly level with the ground. There'll be a little bit of mounding, but it's not like there'll be a raised bed. You won't have wood above ground raised beds. I don't have that much materials to do that. So, but the cardboard will also help with the weed growth because in these beds up close, the grass last year, it was like a golf course. The grass was so crazy in those beds. So having that cardboard in there as well will also help greatly with the weed growth. In addition to having the cardboard and wood chipped pathways. So I think we're going to be in much better shape going into the spring. I think it'll give the plants a much better chance, and I can set traps on the surface for rats and mice if I find that they are becoming a problem. But those guys are easier to catch with traps than the gophers have been. So I think this is a good plan. It's going to be a whole lot of work, but I think it'll be worth it in the end. The irony behind all of this is that when I moved out to the Fish Ranch property a couple of years ago, it was a tiered area, and it was very, like, I couldn't do row crops. I had to really flatten the whole area out, get rid of the tiers, and so that I had a broad area to create row crops in. And every one of those tiers had hardwood cloth baskets that I had to hand dig out because they had been there for 15 years and they were like roots. And I mean, it was crazy. I had so many videos of just me digging out these baskets, and it was hard work. And you couldn't do it with a machine because the pathway, the beds that they were in were too narrow for any machines, and you just had to get in there with a shovel and scoop out all the soil that was inside the hardwood cloth baskets, and then excavate those out, which were all entwined with roots and everything. It was crazy. It was so much work. So it's ironic that I'm putting the same thing in here, but it is necessary. Out there, after I removed those baskets, people said, you will regret that. And I didn't, because I never had any issues with rodents eating my plants. Now, I did have a few mice get in the greenhouse and eat some seedlings before they went in the ground. But once my things were in the ground, I didn't have any issues with moles, gophers. Even though I saw them on the property, they weren't eating my plants. Here is a totally different story. So yeah, this was a hard decision because I feel like now I won't be able I'm not gonna be able to broad fork the beds anymore. Like, there'll still be no-till beds, but it's just not gonna be exactly how I wanted it. But in order to save the crops and have a good harvest and to make money on all the, make a return on my investment, this is how it's got to be. And this is actually a pretty normal thing. Like, this is done in a lot of places, not necessarily farms, but athletic fields, etc. They'll put gopher wire, hardwood cloth down over the entire field before they cover it with topsoil and plant the grass, because gophers will, destroy it. So anyway, I'm going to get started. I have very little energy today. I'm still in the prednisone thing. And it's giving me heart palpitations, and so it's making me out of breath. So I don't know how much I'll be able to get done out here. I'm just gonna move slow and see what happens. Well, I only made it an hour. Between the heat and how I'm feeling, this is as much as I can handle today. But I did get all 3 beds cleared, except for there's a little bit of cynoglossum up there by the wheelbarrow, and the reason it's still there is that the bees are really enjoying it. And so since I'm not working on that bed right now, I'm just going to let them have fun with that. Drug this silage tarp, and yes, it is an old billboard. So a company called Billboard Vinyls, you can buy these. They're used billboards, and they're a lot cheaper than silage tarps. They last a long time. They're about half the size though. This one is about 40 feet long and about 25 feet wide. So they're not nearly as big, but it's been working for me great. It's actually kept those 2 beds over there completely covered for months, and they're great. They're weed free right now. So I've run a line here, which is where we'll dig the edge of this bed starting tomorrow. I need to get the sharp shovel that I have, which is a heavy duty one. It's hard to lift, but it really does a good job of cutting. And all the soil will go on here, and then we'll put the hardware cloth in, layer of cardboard, put this soil back in, and then add new compost, and this bed will be ready. And we'll do the same thing for the next 4, as well as all 5 of those. So huge amount of work to do. And that's why I'm going to need extra hands out here to do it. I just wish the weather was cooler. It's fall and it feels like summer. So it's going to make things a little slower, especially until I get off of this prednisone, because I just don't have the energy since I'm not sleeping. But that's life. All right, so because this is probably a short video, I'm going to combine this with tomorrow. So I'll see you back out here tomorrow. Okay, so it's the next day. I apologize for the air conditioning running, but it's hot outside, and yeah, it's 91 outside. And as you just saw in that footage, we've been working hard, just the 2 of us. Emptying that bed out in order to now roll out the hardware cloth took about an hour and a half. It's hard. I can't imagine doing this for 9 more beds. We're gonna eat some lunch. We're both shaky and tired, and this stupid prednisone makes my heart rate weird, and so it's making me feel rough. Anyway, we're gonna eat. Now it should be a little bit easier. All we need to do is roll out the hardware cloth, cut it to fit, and then kind of shape it into that hole. And the reason that we didn't put all that soil on the tarp is that we're just going to rake it in. Once we get the hardware cloth basket in, we'll rake that in instead of shoveling it. It'll be a lot easier. And then when we go to dig out the next bed, we can put that soil on top of the bed that we've just finished. So we'll leapfrog like that. We have looked into, we've been brainstorming, should we rent equipment? Here's the thing. Those beds are 30 inches wide. A ditch witch, or something like we used before, is 36-inch wide bucket, and you can't really scoop out and put on the bed next to you with those. It's like a bulldozer. So that's not really going to work. The only way that would work is if we used a ditch witch to literally bulldoze the entire plot, buy more hardware cloth, lay it all down, push all that soil back on top, make new beds, and that would be a much bigger expense, because I'd have to buy probably 2 times more hardware cloth. in order to do that. And we'd have to rent the equipment for the day and all that. So we're looking at a couple $1,000s more to do that. But this manual labor part is so hard. Yeah, and the rest of this week, we're going to be hitting 100 degrees. It is the end of September, you guys, early October, and we're going to be hitting 100 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 days. And so I have no idea how this project is going to get done. Thankfully, my seedlings are teeny tiny, and usually I am transplanting the first week of October, and that is definitely not happening this year. So, you know, it is what it is, and as long as they can grow a bit before the winter sets in, and it's not so much the cold, it's the sun, it's the daylight hours that they need. So all I can do is what I can do. And by doing this, putting in these basically gopher baskets for the beds, they'll be protected, and I won't have to worry about them being destroyed. Yeah, overland critters like mice and rats might take some of them, but I can set traps for those guys, and that's a lot easier. Also, I can seal off with row cover and stuff the beds. So anyway, we're gonna have our lunch and then go back out there and try to get at least that one bed lined and backfilled. And then we'll have an idea of how long it's going to take us to do the rest of the farm. It's like crazy. I mean, there's only 10 beds, but 40 feet of bed to dig out hard soil is challenging. And the bed we started on today has not been irrigated. It's been under a tarp for 6 months. And so hopefully as we get towards the more irrigated soil beds, it'll be a little bit easier. We don't have to dig down that deep, but it's a lot. It's a lot of work because we have a lot of clay in our soil, so it is hard. All right, we're gonna get back to work, and hopefully we can get this one bed done today. Well, there you have it. The first of 10 beds done. Whew, that was hard work, really hard work. I feel completely wiped out, but I feel like we can't stop. So parts of the bed are going to be less than 30 inches wide, probably more like 24 inches, but that's okay because honestly, I will take protected space that's a little wonky over perfectly squared off space that is full of gophers. That's just how it is. So, okay. So tomorrow it's going to be a lot hotter. But I think we're going to go out in the morning after we take Aiden to school and just try to get in a couple of hours. That process took about 3.5 hours. So if we can do that tomorrow, although we're going to be more tired, maybe we can get another bed done. So yeah, slow and steady. I just wish there was a mechanized way of doing it, and especially because Mike's back has been really sore for like months. And so that kind of work is just not great. He says he's not pushing himself, but I can hear that he's pushing himself. So I worry. But it is what it is. I would love to organize a volunteer farm day, but it's kind of too late to do that at this point. So I will look to do that in the future because the only time I really need help out there is not really during the season once everything's planted and I'm just harvesting and stuff. It's getting the major season changes done. So lots of people want to come and volunteer on the farm. I just need to organize that and set it up, and they can get free eggs and free honey and free flowers. And, you know, I think that would be hopefully worth their while. Anyway, thanks for hanging out over the last 2 days. I'm going to go take a shower and scrub off all the dirt and the sunscreen. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I will see you in the next one.